Dan and Corey here, welcoming you into Libservative.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back.
Runner goes, pitch is swung on, a high fly ball to right field. This one is gonna fly! A 3-run home run!
I believe
Gary
I can
Carpenter!
fly.
The Tigers up 3-0 as Carpenter, an emphatic, towering fly ball home run.
We're all behind our baseball team. Go get 'em, Tiger. World Series bound and picking up steam. Go get 'em, Tiger.
Yeah! Welcome in. Another rousing rendition of Libservative. Intellectual idiots fostering political and cultural literacy. Bodysnatcher on the ones and twos. He is always his Corey Walsh.
And he's Dan Griffin. And no, this isn't a sports podcast. This is a political one.
I'm
we're
a
just
happy guy.
behind our baseball team.
I'm a happy guy. I'm going to game 4. I hope it's a series clinching game. Never done it. Got my sweatshirt. It's been good luck. It's been really good luck. Makes no sense what this team is doing. We have to celebrate it even on this show, just so everybody knows how happy we are. This city deserves something.
No, it's pretty wild. That it might have been you that shared it with me, but that stat that like the entire Detroit Tigers team, I don't know if it's the entire team, but like something like their whole team together gets paid less than like the one pitcher that we beat.
Yeah, their wild card roster, got paid less than one pitcher who contributed to blowing the wild card series. So I'm gonna see. I'll be at section 217, Comerica Park on Thursday at 6:10 to hopefully watch our Detroit baseball Tigers make their way on to the American League Championship Series. Hopefully against those Kansas City Royals, because everybody hates the Yankees. Although it's always fun to try and beat the Yankees. Anyway, again, not a sports podcast, but we had to throw it out there. We had to. You know why? Here's why I wanted to do that. I'm going to tell you exactly why I wanted to do that. Not just because I'm happy that my baseball team that had no business ever being in the postseason as of August 2nd, they had like a 0.2% chance to make the postseason. Because what's going on right now, you need to start shows like this with something a little bit happy. We got a death storm that's about to hit Florida. So, thoughts and prayers, brother, to all of our Floridian friends. In all seriousness, like this doesn't look like it's going to be good or for anyone. We have an election coming up that's going to be a complete shit show. We have, as part of that election, one of the candidates completely tanking in her interview sessions. And also to top all of that off, we're recording this on the October 8th. We are also now exactly 1 year and 1 day removed from the October 7th terrorist attack by Hamas on Israel, and then obviously the ensuing year that has now taken place in Gaza. So wanted to celebrate with a little bit of baseball. You need some distraction. I know Corey agrees.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm sorry. My computer.
Bell's asking if or you're asking if my mic is only cutting out for you. Bell, is my mic cutting out for you? You can just shake your head yes or no. It is. Okay,
It is.
so I'm the piece of shit.
You're a real piece of shit. He just responded, yes.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna leave and come back. I'll be right back.
I don't know
in a matter of seconds.
God damn it, you guys. This is a fucking mess. I asked, is Dan's mic only cutting out for me? And Bell said yes. But when Dan asked Bell, look at his face. But when Dan asked Bell, if it was cutting out for him, he also said yes.
I just
And
no, I
This
answered
Mickey Mouse
Dan's question.
organization that we got going on here is more like the Michigan Wolverines, not the Detroit Tigers. Again, this is not a sports podcast.
I just want to say I was answering Dan. I didn't see your message in the chat, but I heard Dan's question. I answered that in the chat.
So Dan, go ahead, leave. Get out of here. Go reset your shit. Me and Bell will keep this
I
moving.
tried.
You just
All
did
right.
it again.
Can you hear me now? You can't hear me now.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Oh, can't hear him anymore.
Now I'm hacking and coughing because I'm choking on a fucking chicken bone. My wife surprised me with some KFC, and I started choking on it right during the intro. And I thought you know what it reminded me of?
I'm back.
When I was choking on the chicken bone, it reminded me when we had a president that was just a CP. Like, if the lack of a person traded CPR was, or the Heimlich maneuver wasn't there, essentially, we would have had Dick Cheney as our president. Because do you guys remember when George Bush choked on the pretzel and like almost died?
Yes.
We can laugh about it now.
Yeah, I was too young to laugh about it then, but I probably would have laughed about it then. But I just think it's really funny. I think because I remember, like, I don't remember like being a little kid when that happened. Like, well, I was probably like 13 or 14, but I didn't give a shit about politics then. You know, your penis is doing weird things. All of a sudden, you smell weird. You're going through all your own shit. Like, your world is way smaller, even after 9/11.
Don't get bogged down by all the haters out there.
But I remember seeing the news on and not knowing anything about like the actual like weight of what was going on. But Bush almost died, and his response to all like the press like giving him shit about it was sending them bags of pretzels and saying thanks for caring or something like that. Did you know he did that?
Yeah.
That's the one of the most vivid memories of politics I have as a child is George Bush sending fucking pretzels. Like, it's as vivid as 9/11 itself.
Not the shoe getting thrown at him.
The shoe, like, I think it's just situational because, like, I was walking in the house when the pretzel story was on, and I looked at the TV to see what was going on. But, like, the shoe thing, there wasn't that moment. Like, I remember it happening. It's pretty wild that it happened. And he just on the podium, just juking around.
He's pretty athletic president.
Like, all right,
and then
the first shoe I get.
And then Obama came in and can actually ball. So he won that one.
Yeah, but Bill Clinton could play the saxophone.
A little. He
got invited to the cookout for it.
By the way, I have to start with just this quick announcement because this is something I'm going to do on every show until it changes. We are now on day 13 of the Ken Klippenstein suspension from X. We're on day number 13. This didn't just end.
X is the one
overnight.
that's owned by the free speech absolutist, right?
Yeah, and that free speech absolutist also just donated $40 million to the Trump campaign. And
who's trying to repeal Section 230.
And showed up at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I don't really care that Elon Musk supports Donald Trump. That part doesn't bother me one bit. Don't really give a shit. But you're going to call yourself a free speech absolutist and leave a really good, by the way, journalist suspended off your platform for now 13 days for something that he reported on in a very, very reasonable way. You're not a free speech absolutist.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, exactly. Like, I could give two shits who Elon Musk supports, but your personal actions of you taking over Twitter, and you did the Twitter files, great, I loved it, good work, but that's not necessarily his work. That was Matt Taibbi, Mike Schellenberger, and Barry Weiss. They're the ones who actually brought that work out.
American astronauts into space. Here.
Into space.
Take over, Elon. Yes, take over.
Jesus Christ. Why is he jumping around?
Hi, everyone.
I don't know.
He is a really awkward guy. He really is.
Baron sure got big.
As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA.
Nobody in the crowd understood that.
Nobody. That's something that's super hyper online.
And, the true test of someone's character is how they behave under fire. And we had one president who couldn't climb a flight of stairs.
And he
And
does have
another
some weight
who
to what
was
he's saying here,
fist
though.
pumping after getting shot. Fight, fight, fight. Blood coming down the face.
It's such a South
Now-
African accent.
America is
Is it South
the
African
home
or
of
is it
the
autistic?
brave.
I'm not a psychologist. I only took.
And there's
All
no
right,
true. There's
and
no
let me
true
tell you,
test
based on my
according to the
psychology
park.
101 class that I took.
So who do you want representing America? Yeah, absolutely.
But I did hear they had to add a
And,
trailer hitch to the
I think this
Suburban that took Trump out for his balls. For doing that. Like, like, I'm not a Trump guy, but like, the only president that pulled a more badass stunt about that, well, actually, two presidents have pulled more badass stunts than that. One is Andrew Jackson, who he was actually called, what do they call him? Old Rickety Buckets or whatever. Like, he had a nickname because he would get into duels and like his strategy was to get shot. Like to get shot at first, hoping they missed, and then he would be able to take his time and shoot while the other guy stood there, or else the guy lost his honor if he moved around, right? But there's a story about him where he fucking and the reason why he got in all those duels is he married a woman who was married before.
Boy, I hope he's qualified.
So back then that was like a big, so he would he'd be walking around and people would basically just be murmuring or yelling across the street, or and so he would challenge them to duels. This is all like, well, this is fucking history. Paraphrase.
We have to stay woke.
And he was walking out of either the Capitol building or it's like somewhere in Washington, D.C. And someone tried to assassinate him and they shot him like in the stomach. And the story ends where he has to be pulled off the guy that shot him because he was beating him to death with his cane. Getting shot only pissed him off. Now, I did make him sound like a pretty big badass and all of that. But the only other president who I think was more badass than when he got shot was Theodore Roosevelt, who got shot in the chest and finished his 45-minute speech. Trump got scurried away. Now, there was no way, the way security is now, there was no way that they would let him
Finish his speech. But they did let him get his shoes on. They did let him get his shoes on.
There
That's
was
something.
a Secret Service when Teddy was president.
It is something, though. They let him get his
The
shoes on.
assassins were
Let
afraid
me
of
get
him.
my shoes.
He wasn't afraid of the assassins.
Yeah. Again, don't have an issue with Elon's support of Donald Trump. What I have an issue with is the fact that he's the quote unquote free speech guy, and he's banning reporters from his platform for doing something that he doesn't like that's politically motivated.
He did better than Lincoln.
Who
Lincoln
did?
didn't even
Elon?
Trump. Abraham Lincoln. He didn't even finish the play. All he was doing was sitting down.
Yeah, what a joke. What a joke. What a joke of a president.
I think it's a very rude introduction.
I'm glad you agree.
We're kidding. Jesus Christ. Everybody calm down.
I think
you got some,
that happened a long time ago.
Yeah, too soon?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, whoa, sorry, too soon.
You got some things learned. I got some things learned for you.
I learned some
I
things.
learned that Alex Jones may have been right about something else.
Ooh, what's that?
He may have been right.
Oh,
about
hey,
the
wait.
fact-
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Do you really have to do this now? You couldn't have just skipped
or
it.
I'll
Go
forget.
for it.
Libservative
Go.
Podcast is found on all social media podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today. I always remember the plug. You always remember to keep us on task.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know?
Exactly. Thank you, Kamala, for always having my back as a middle-class working man.
Anyway, now that we've really upped the suspense about what something else Alex Jones may have actually been right about,
we did.
I think he might have actually been right about the fact that Hillary Clinton actually might be a lizard person. I think that might even be. I think that might be a real thing.
What is
if you haven't
would catch her shedding her skin or something? Dan, what have I told you about 4chan?
More or less, she did her proverbial skin, I suppose. She shed in this particular video. If I can ever actually fucking find it. There we go. Yeah, she might have actually shed her skin.
There should be a lot of things done. We should be, in my view,
pause it real quick.
Something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the.
Why?
Okay. It's just I don't understand how these old people who are millionaires and billionaires haven't gotten hip to just buying simple cameras off Amazon and getting decent.
Oh, it's
audio.
a WebEx.
She gets her shirts from North Korea.
I know she's just like Kim Jong-un. But
I am so glad you brought that up because that is why
why does he look so surprised on the left?
And
what is he's just standing in the middle of New York City? Where's his studio?
Bro, it's CNN.
I know. I was kidding. Obviously, for people who are just listening, the backdrop is just a skyline.
But okay. So to Bell's point about the whatever top that is that is wearing. That is why I said she might actually. It's one of the reasons I said she might actually be a lizard person, as Alex Jones has said about her in the past. No, that's not what I'm saying. What
she's
she is wearing.
She's
what she is wearing.
Aren't we all doing that right now with our clothes?
But doesn't it look like something that like a bad guy alien from Star Trek would wear?
Yeah.
Like a humanoid alien from Star Trek would wear the whatever. Is that a black? I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Or a really old woman who's chilly that's in her basement waiting for her friend group to come over to play canasta.
Or drink the blood of children, as Alex Jones might say.
Yeah, that's what she's doing. That's blood stain proof clothing right there. But no, I wasn't gonna get into all
Hillary
that.
Clinton,
What I was getting into
she smells like sulfur.
How do they not get it that you can just buy some simple lighting that you can have in a corner of your house if you're going to be going on national TV all fucking the time? And I don't know, it's mind-boggling to me that like they're using the camera off their laptop, and she for some reason still has an entertainment center from 1998.
What is that painting on the right side of the screen? It looks like the disciples of Jesus. There's something weird going on here. Anyway, here's the video.
Why is her chair yellow?
We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave, platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control.
All you need to know is one word. What do you think that word is, Corey?
Control.
Yeah, good job. I knew you could figure that one out. I really wish we had a round of applause sounder.
We should have a round of applause sounder. And well, what's even more impressive is I was actually looking some stuff up to read to the listeners while she was talking, and you were asking me questions. I was multitasking, bro.
That's new for you.
No, the problem is I have ADD. I multitask way too much. I only did I'm not like gloating at the fact that I did two things at once. It's that I wasn't trying to do six and only did two.
Because now what people perhaps had never seen before can be seen to know what's possible.
Yeah. She's right,
Those Kamala drops never stop being funny.
So we're talking about Section 230 right now and why we're actually even playing this other than pointing out Hillary just being a terrible person.
Hillary and the establishment want to repeal it.
Just like their skin. And
how many people do you think don't realize that I'm kidding about that?
All of them.
Yeah, probably all of them.
Whoa, you're kidding. I didn't even know.
Absolutely no faith in the American people.
So the reason why we're getting huffed and puffed about this is Section 230 is what Section 230. Section 230 of the Communications Act of 1934 is a law that provides limited immunity from legal liability to users and providers of interactive computer services. It was enacted as part of the Communications Decency Act of 1996. Section 230 protects online platforms from being held liable for third-party content, such as user-generated content that appears on their services. It also protects platforms from being held liable for removing certain content. The immunity is intended to encourage online users and services to create and find communities. Section 230's protections are not absolute, and there are some situations where it does not apply. For example, a platform could still be held liable for information it develops or for activities unrelated to third-party content. Additionally, a platform could be held liable if it actively gathers data and republishes it on its own. And so,
and now the argument is,
well, so basically,
like
so what Section 230 does is it basically protects the platforms from having to over-censor themselves to protect themselves, because the users on it are people with free will and who could say some really, really fucking ridiculously terrible shit, which I don't like. Neither of us like. It's wrong, but it shouldn't be inhibited by a government, and a third party is able to protect itself from being held responsible for that through this act. What this does is it protects free speech, and it protects different stories that might be good for the population that the government might not think is friendly to their platform, their narrative, their agenda, whatever, from them having retribution on them for allowing it to be distributed.
And the argument is from people like Hillary Clinton is that,
and Donald Trump,
as well. 100%.
Because I was going to bring that up. It's a very important point.
No.
Both sides are trying to restrict your right to free speech. You might want to be against that.
Start asking questions. You might want to start asking the questions that they don't want to ask. But what the establishment is asking here, their entire point is that places like Facebook and X and TikTok and whatever, they're trying to say that these are publishers now. And if you're a publisher, Section 230 doesn't apply to you. You are held liable for the things that you put on your platform. It's nonsense. It's obviously complete bullshit. They're absolutely not publishers. You know why? Because it's not as if whatever it is, Twitter or Facebook or TikTok, it's not like they have to go through and have an editor-in-chief look through a goddamn tweet and go, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Oh, that's fine. We'll take that one. It's nonsense. And Hillary Clinton just said the quiet part out loud, as we've seen from the establishment so many times. And to your point, Corey, that was the big one. That was the really quiet part out loud thing that she said. We, whoever we are, is going to lose total control. And apparently Ryan Grimm, you said, was on the same page as me this morning on his show, which was in control of whose control and of what. And that's the right question to ask.
And it is, because usually when I say, like, when I'm talking to someone about like any sort of political issue or any sort of issue, when I say the word we, I'm attributing it to who I'm talking to and the people that we would all have in our Venn diagrams, of like the people that are kind of on the same page of us. When it's talking about we, you're inferring to an other. And when we say we're talking about our friends and family, people like that. She's talking to some elitist journalist, and she's saying we, and her friend group is definitely one who has a lot more power than we do. So who's the other? Who are they going to lose control of? You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to articulate this because these thoughts are just jumbling around in my brain right now, and they're coming out as I'm just thinking about this because you're picking my brain. But
I think our biggest this Section 230 is very, very important, and it needs to stay in existence. And yes, to answer the question that I know will come about, it will be like, well, what about this and what about that? There are trade-offs. The Thomas Sowell kind of, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs.
And then ultimately, like, why are they doing this? And they'll say, oh, well, it's to protect the democracy and protect you.
Yeah, if they say they say they're protecting you,
right? Because
you always get the side eye.
any person should give the side eye to it all the time, because it's like everyone's already figured out like what, you know, it's like basic instinct. It's like it's human nature, you know, you want to survive. So you figure out what threats are out there, and and you hedge your bets and doing everything possible to mitigate those threats.
They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not stand for it.
Exactly.
Thank you, Kamala. Sometimes Kamala says the right thing.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and right. It's just, I don't know. Like, if the government's showing up with some threat that all of a sudden like was never a threat to you in your entire life, and it's like, we're here to protect you, you should be like, well, what? Why? Like, I don't know. Like, what? Just
everything is awesome.
I don't know.
Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome when we're living our dream.
I told you, it's such a good propaganda song. That's the song that they're all just trying to make for all the American people to live by. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool. Just keep your head in the sand.
Anyway,
I'm going off on a tangent, and I'm filibustering the fucking show right now because I'm trying to come up with the words of what
I thought
are
you were
in
trying
my
to
mind.
think of something you learned this week.
Oh, I still have something I learned. Anyways, if both sides of the government who vehemently disagree with each other for show and tell you to hate each other are both in agreement on one thing, and it's Section 230, which is this life was free speech, you should absolutely be up in arms about it and be against it.
Section 230 is a good thing.
Was that a good synopsis of all the words that I was?
Yeah, it was also a good synopsis.
I should have just said that in the beginning. Anyways, what I learned this week is Congress has not passed its legally mandated.
I think it's a very rude introduction.
Budget and spent since 1997.
Sorry, Trump interrupted you. What were you saying?
I know, that little bastard. That orange son bitch.
Didn't know she was black.
Congress has not passed its legally mandated budget and spending bills since 1997. That's it. That's all I learned. I was like, oh, I'm surprisingly not surprised.
It's just kick.
That's because it's just stopgats. But the stopgats actually lead into one of the topics we're going to talk about tonight with the hurricanes and stuff. Yeah, they just fucked up once and just didn't fund FEMA properly, and now they have to dig into their budget for next year. Just hoping no more hurricanes happen, I guess. I don't know. But
the amount of robbing Peter to pay Paul here's the thing is, like, we are in this shit as nerds, and we probably don't even understand 10% of it. Can you imagine that
self-prescribed intellectual idiots?
It's not even just that. Like, we actually try to understand this shit, and we understand like maybe 10% of it. People that are 3 times smarter than us, like the people that we have
are just doing their best.
A lot of respect for, like the breaking points of the world, the Dave Smiths of the world, the based politics people of the world, like
fifth column.
They probably don't. Fifth column people, they probably don't even understand 25% of it. And so it's like, imagine what normie Americans don't understand about like these budgetary quote unquote budgetary restrictions.
Yeah, no, it always reminds me of that Hunter S. Thompson quote about the boat rocking. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
Are you looking it up? You just look it up in real time. Leave us some dead air.
They're cheating. They're crooked. They're corrupt.
There you go. I was waiting for you to do. Yeah.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
And it's wild. Like this quote. So this was about like the late 60s, early 70s American government when he did. It was from Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail of 72. And he's talking about just the politics in our country. And it's only gotten worse since then. But he goes, once they let you get away with running around for 10 years like a goddamn hoodlum, or no, like a king hoodlum, you tend to forget now and then that about half the people you meet live from one day to the next in a state of such fear and uncertainty that about half the time they honestly doubt their own sanity. These are not the kind of people who really need to get hung up in depressing political trips. They are not ready for it. Their boats are rocking so badly that all they want to do is get level long enough to think think straight, and avoid the next nightmare.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And it's funny in the book though. It was like some chick he was with at a party, and I think she was tripping, but he wasn't. But she was just listening to what he had to say, so he started just ranting on about politics. And it ends with this girl I was delivering up to, or no, she picked up a girl who was tripping, and he was dropping her off somewhere in the car. And it's this girl I was delivering up to the chicken coop was one of those people. She was terrified of almost everything, including me, and this made me very uncomfortable.
Can you imagine if that happened today? He would have immediately caught a sexual assault case.
Yeah,
like the next morning.
But hitchhiking back then was the norm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like that quote, I feel like it nails, everyone is just, their boats are rocking so badly that all they want to do is get level long enough to think straight and avoid the next nightmare.
Yeah, I don't know that I believe
people
that.
Aren't paying attention, but and we barely pay attention.
Yeah, when we pay attention, at least.
Oh, Liberty Twitcher just gave
more.
another good Hunter S. Thompson quote.
Yeah, but he got it off ChatGPT. Did you see his next comment?
Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid and broadside with a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride!" No, that's actually verbatim. That's a good one. He was probably.
I understand that.
He was probably talking shit to me for looking it up and giving dead air. Yeah. But yeah, no, Hunter S. Thompson's probably one of my favorite journalists. That's a good book. Like in the Book of 72, or Fear and Loathing on the Political Trail in 72. It's wild how, because around that same time is when the shit happened with Muskie, and I think it was McGovern, and there was a big switch in who was running for candidate, and it was against Nixon, who was this Republican who the Democrats hated, and it was crazy turmoil shit back then, just like now.
We have to stay woke.
Just remember that. Don't you forget. Belle, did you have a things learned for us tonight? Now that we're fucking 32 minutes into this shit show.
I know, and I got KFC chicken wait for me.
Yeah. You guys were talking about Abe Lincoln earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I was.
I don't know if you were hating on him or.
And about what a shitty guy he was.
Well, he was a
compared to Trump because
wrestler, apparently.
Because Trump took the shot and walked, and Abe didn't.
Yeah, what a dumbass. Why didn't he fucking move? Why didn't he just move at the last second like Trump did? What an idiot.
Yeah, he didn't even finish the play.
Bitch.
I think it's a very rude introduction.
And then the other guy sucked too. He took a 30-foot jump and broke his leg. Idiot.
Trump would have survived it.
He wrestled.
Nobody's ever been hit in the fall, brother. He was a wrestler.
Oh my god. He was a wrestler, man.
Who was this?
He was a wrestler.
We're talking Trump.
No. That's what he's trying to tell his things learned, and he's saying that he just learned that Abe Lincoln was a wrestler.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was a wrestler. He has over 300 recorded. Like, he only has one recorded loss, but they say 300 wins.
That's all propaganda.
Didn't he also box?
No, he was just a wrestler. Well, they said that his first wrestling
he loved
match,
getting grappling them sweaty men, because there's another thing that you hear about how Lincoln had a cabin that he spent time with his friends or something like that, and they shared a bed.
You know that when he did. You know that when he did box, he boxed like an old-timey like Irishman with his fists upside down like this, for sure.
Is that are you making this up?
Donald Trump is a bad guy. He's a bad person.
Who
do you think would win? Abe Lincoln 5 minutes before the gunshot, or Donald Trump right now?
Who would I rather be?
Who's more badass?
No, who would win in a wrestling match?
Who would you take?
Who would you rather be? What the fuck? Abe Lincoln 5 minutes before the shot? What the fuck?
Or Trump right now?
Well, some people might answer that way.
Or Trump right now. Yeah, I would take Trump right now.
Trump right now?
No, who
Take,
wins in a
take
wrestling match?
Abraham Lincoln. Take Abraham Lincoln 5 minutes after the shot in Trump right now. I'm taking Lincoln. I think I can take him.
As far as who you're going to be, but who's going to win the wrestling match? For sure, Abe Lincoln 5 minutes after the shot,
and he'll beat Trump.
How old was he when he died?
I don't know, 50 something. I actually don't know the answer to that question. I don't know that history.
He was like 52. Oh,
yeah,
dude,
he
he
definitely
beat the shit out of Trump.
Yeah, he would have.
He got him in a full
the
Nelson.
Shit out of Trump.
Theodore
he would have been able to
probably
beat the shit out of Trump and then go sit in his seat and still get shot.
Theodore Roosevelt
and then wrestled him again and beat him.
He could have pinned him in a 3 count 3 times.
No, that's Jackson. Jackson can be taking shots while he's wrestling and still win.
Probably. They're all like that. Fucking hit each other with a chair, sing the national anthem, shoot him in the face.
Yeah, okay, that's a fun
Motherfuckers
game.
were crazy.
If you could, which president could beat the shit out of all the other presidents?
Ooh,
that's fun.
See, it depends. So are you saying like
they're all in their prime?
Hold
they're
on.
all in their prime.
No. I actually have a better way to ask that question. Not necessarily when they were on their prime, but when they were president, right? Because I look at somebody like a JFK who was a football player, but he also had a really shitty back when he was president. So that kind of takes away some of his muster, I think. I'm saying I would say when they're president. You have to use them when they're actually in office.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
Okay,
who would be the most dominant? I think honestly, Teddy would be hard to beat.
I think
Teddy would be
hard to beat.
Would be really hard to beat.
I
mean, honestly, Barack Obama. I mean, he's one of the youngest ever. He was a good athlete. He was in good shape when he was president.
Think about this. This might be cliche, but George Washington, my guy, was fresh off the Delaware River after just
he was
to him.
Yeah, and that guy was like 6'6".
Yeah, and he was a monster, and he was already fucking people up, and they're like, "You want to be president?" And he was like, "Yeah, but I'm still ready to fuck people up," you know.
But then there's Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, that's another good one.
Too.
But he was a fucking drunk, which could work to his advantage or against him.
Taft would just be like Butterbean. Taft would be like Butterbean.
He probably threw a heavy right hook.
Dude, he probably threw a ridiculous right hook. And someone would be coming in for body blows and he wouldn't even be fucking feeling them.
All right, so who would come in last? Like who
Neither
would
would the other
who would come in-
Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt.
You just say that because he was crippled. No. There's actually a rival to that who would come in last. It might be William Henry Harrison since he fucking died like
or Biden.
2 minutes into office. Oh yeah, Biden's a good one too. Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair.
This is a fun.
It's so funny. Even if Kamala gets elected, I don't think she'd come in last because I think right now today she could beat the shit out of Joe Biden. So
she could probably beat the shit out of Trump. I feel like she's catty.
Yeah. I mean, she did date Montel,
and she has a gun.
She does have a gun. She said so.
What kind of gun?
That was an impromptu game. I swear to God, Bell's things learned every fucking week bring the best out of us. Somehow.
So we should probably try to play that game every week. Like, which president would be best at this, and just come up with a ridiculous scenario.
We're gonna run out of ideas. We're also too lazy. So
there's no way we could. There's no way we could. Like, which one could build the best chair? Which one would be the most equipped to climb Mount Everest?
We could never run out of shit.
Teddy.
Yeah, again, Teddy. Like, Teddy's gonna win most of these.
Yeah. If he wasn't
who can build the best
when he got out of war. If he wasn't so old when he got out of war and became president, I'd say Eisenhower would probably be up there with like who could kick somebody's ass.
Yeah, Eisenhower pulled some shit. That's why I went with Grant. Like I'm picturing guys that like. Again, back to Hunter S. Thompson. He talks about finely tuned black belt karate fighters, and that I would do the same too. Like if all of a sudden you had a biker who's been getting in bar fights his entire life but has like no technical training, I would take him over the person who have nothing but like black belt training in karate or whatever, but only done it in like competitions, but never used it in real fights. Because there's something about just like that bloodthirst, that knowing what blood tastes like in your mouth, knowing what like your life being almost taken like type shit is. And like I think of Ulysses S. Grant and Eisenhower, because these guys saw some shit. You know what I mean?
I mean, Andrew Jackson too.
And yeah, Andrew Jackson, that's what I said. He was shot in the fucking chest and beat the
Boy, I
guy
hope he's qualified.
to death with his cane.
You,
I feel like Jefferson, Hamilton, and all them, like they were badasses in their own right, but they weren't like on the front lines. They were more pencil pusher type people.
Hamilton wasn't a president, but
no, but I mean, like, well, I guess I'm just equating them to the founding fathers. Hancock, he wasn't a president either, though, but he was basically a pirate. He might be one of the badasses.
Who's the softest of the founding fathers? I think it's between two guys. I think it's
Burr.
either. I mean, he at least had the balls to shoot somebody and get shot back and die. But
no,
no. Hamilton got shot by Aaron Burr, but Aaron Burr was also shot and killed, was he not?
No, I think he died in exile because he tried to do another revolution. I think in Texas, somewhere out west.
Well, I think that automatically doesn't make him very soft. I was going to say, as much as I like the guy, it's either Benjamin Franklin or John Adams.
Well, Benjamin Franklin wasn't a president either.
I said founding father.
Oh, okay,
founding fathers.
Yeah, dude, the guy was too busy just trying to bang horse.
I mean,
he didn't give a shit.
Yeah,
about
he did
fighting.
get a lot of ass, so he probably wasn't as soft as we think he was. Anyway, that is a tangent we did not need to get on.
Okay, so it's like if you have to like if you're playing like a game of Guess Who, trying to split them up, trying to come to the like the answer based on like lifestyle and stuff. Whatever it's obviously already one that was in the group that didn't want to do an immediate separation from the British, but we're like, we can come to a solution. Wasn't Adams one of them?
Yeah, and John Adams seemed like he had a really big fucking mouth that he couldn't back up. Or maybe I'm just thinking of that because fucking Paul Giamatti played it.
We're just picturing Paul Giamatti as one of the founding fathers.
Maybe I have too much of a view of Paul Giamatti as John Adams.
Yeah, no, I think Washington was probably like the most badass of the founding fathers. Clearly.
Yeah, man, he gave up power. He's the only person that's ever done that in like human history. Just sacrificed his power so he could walk away.
Yeah, he put his ego aside, did not think if I just stick with this, I could. But he also inadvertently kicked everything off with the French and Indian War or whatever. When he was in charge of a platoon, I think he was in charge of a platoon, but like they fired on the French. He really wasn't supposed to do that at a fort. And that war is what put Great Britain into debt, which led to them trying to tax the colonies, which led to George Washington was a part of all of it, but like he was on the front lines. He was just in the shit, you know.
October 7th, Corey, a year in review.
Yeah. October 7th was a fucking mess, and a year later, it's only gotten worse.
What are your takeaways from this year with regards to the aftermath of October 7th? Because I've got a handful of them.
Yeah, no, I got some. I find it interesting that this is what I think, like on the grant, like on the like just looking at all the countries and the geopolitics of it, like on a 1,000-foot tower. And I just find it interesting that when the Ukraine-Russian thing is happening, Putin's a war criminal. he's trying to do a genocide, all of this stuff. Like, we were so quick to call him that. But when Israel's kind of doing the same thing, we're okay with it, and we're giving them money. You know, I find it amazing that for so many people, including the people running for president on both sides, seem to, like, for some reason, think the relationship between Hamas and Israel started on October 7th.
Yeah,
And
that's
that it
kind of
doesn't
number
go,
one,
it
isn't
doesn't go, yeah, and it doesn't go, and like they forget that it goes all the way back to World War One with the
Before that,
Zionists.
even.
Well, even before that, right? Before that, but like that was kind of the catalyst, what created like the boiling pot, that what we call the Middle East, right? Because
Yeah.
of the fucking Brits,
Yeah.
again, always
And
causing trouble.
you had two different types of Zionists before that in 1896, where you had like cultural Zionists versus practical Zionists who didn't believe who just wanted the Jewish people to have a home, but not necessarily a state. It's all unbelievably convoluted, but none of it happened apparently before October 7th. To your point, Corey, the one you just made was actually one of my points about 1 year since October 7th, which is it was a year of figuring out who the worthy and unworthy victims were. Am I wrong?
It was a race to the bottom. No, you're absolutely right. Like, you know, like the Palestinian protesters didn't do themselves any favors by acting like children 2,000 miles away from what was happening. The pro-Israel people acting like all of a sudden they were victims here, not over there, just because people were just raising suspicion about like how this war was being handled. And then a bunch of people being painted as anti-Semites because they were just like, hey, we don't like war. This isn't a good look. And just saying that, and you were just painted as an anti-Semite. Like, it was insane. It was wild to me how fast that type of stuff was being flung around. It reminded me of other social justice movements, but this one, for some reason, had a lot more weight because we're very invested in Israel. I found it funny how people would call a country who's shooting journalists, banning journalists, locking journalists up, doing all sorts of things like that, a democracy, when their democracy is as big of a paper tiger as ours is at this point.
Easily.
I'm amazed at how, I don't know, it's fucking wild. Like, should Israel respond for being attacked? Yeah, absolutely. It goes without saying. They're a sovereign country. They're allowed to defend themselves. Should Israel just be carpet bombing an area with like a population density equivalent to something like Los Angeles? Probably not. Like, everyone attributes it to Dresden, but I think that in 2024, like, yeah, Dresden helped win the war, but it's like, at what cost? Like, a lot of people fucking died. Like, we were taking out Hitler, but Hitler was doing a genocide on a scale that was way more atrocious than what was happening. Like, no, not what was happening, but like, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to try to equate two tragedies to another. But what I guess what I'm trying to get at.
No,
here,
well, but just to speak to that point, Corey, it's this idea of never letting a good tragedy go to waste, right? Which Netanyahu certainly did not do. This was a tragedy that happened now a year and 1 day ago. But Netanyahu certainly did not let that go to waste. This has been a year of pulling the mask off of Netanyahu and his mobster cronies, the things that we learned through the reporting of people like Glenn Greenwald and others, where you have the fact that Netanyahu propped up Hamas for so many because he didn't want a two-state solution. And it's almost this idea of like, imagine like a little kid who's getting the shit beat out of him by his dad, who's maybe otherwise a pretty good guy, but maybe he's a drunk. He provides, he does some good things, but at the end of the day, he beats the shit out of his kid. And then his kid decides one day to get up and kill him because he's sick of getting the shit beat out of him every day. Like, that's kind of the convoluted, complicated issue that you don't want to ever go through, but you are going through if you're an Israeli citizen right now. In the understanding of the culpability for why this happened in the first place.
I guess why I'm having such a hard time articulating like how I exactly feel about it, because it's constantly like you keep going back and you keep going back and you keep going back and like where the original sin was, what caused this to happen. It's the same thing with the Ukraine war. It's like, oh, Russia invaded Ukraine. It's like, oh, but it's like, oh, but we helped a coup there, and completely obliterated the Minsk Accords. And it's like, oh, but they were initially a part of the Soviet Union. Oh, but we're putting our bases close to Russia. Like, it's that kind of shit, right?
Well,
like,
and doesn't it?
Hamas did
it's
this because of like all the settlement shit. We've talked about it on our show countless times of just journalists just being shot by IDF soldiers. Israel,
hold on, Corey.
the Israeli army doesn't.
At some point, doesn't it? Like this is what I wish. This is the way I wish more people would think about it. At some point, doesn't it stop mattering who the fuck started it? Like, doesn't it?
Liberty
Doesn't
Twitcher
that
just
part-
said Hamas did it because they hate Jews. Period.
Yeah, sure, okay. It's deeper than that.
But it's right. But it's like, why do they hate the Jews? Like, it's a constant. It goes all the way back, like to where because before World War I, Jews, Christians, and Muslim people all lived in that area in complete peace because they were all subservient to the Ottoman Empire. Okay. But then on like far, far more like, well, I guess it'd be more east, like Eastern Europe area, the Russians and like even I think in Turkey and stuff like that, they started beating the shit out and harassing and fucking with Jews. So they kept going west and they all were and ended up being in the area near Israel. But then Britain showed up and really wanted to take out the Ottoman Empire, and they did the Balfour Accords, where they promised all the Middle Eastern countries their own sovereign land, but then also promised all of this land to, I think, Spain, France, and Italy. Maybe it might have been a different country. It might have been
as a means to try and end a war, and the Balfour Accords were not a legally binding agreement, and yet
no, they weren't, but.
They were promising these lands to various different people as a means to end World War I, which never should have happened in the fucking first place. This idea of just trying to simplify it to, well, Hamas just hates Jews. Like, if that's as deep as you want to go, I mean, we can't help you there. But because that's obviously true. Hamas obviously does hate Jews. And would love to kill as many of them as they possibly can. Like, I don't think any of us deny that. It's the matter of wanting to get deeper into that. And you have to dig really fucking deep.
It's
really fucking deep. And most people don't want to.
It's a very like it's an oversimplification. It's an oversimplification of like a very complex issue. Just like how when they're like, oh, why does Iran hate us? Oh, because they hate our freedom. It's like, no, there was a coup in the 50s propagated by British Petroleum Oil in UK and
but
America.
Like you say no.
Like
the answer is kind of yes, but it's so much more deeper than that.
Right, because our freedom to them is a facade because it's our freedom that fucked their country up. And when you look at all of the shit that Israel isn't innocent in this, but this attack should not have happened to them. And I guess where I'm at on this is they're a sovereign country, and if they want to commit these atrocities and use a hammer to solve a glass cutting problem type of situation, like bringing a sledgehammer to working on microchips type of fucking metaphor or simile or whatever, fine, let them do it. I don't care. But they don't need my tax dollars and they don't need American dollars to do that, especially when we just cut FEMA funding to propagate a stopgap bill to keep our government just the bare minimum open. And at the same breath, and then within the same week, we give $8.7 billion to Israel. No, I don't know. I don't like seeing children fucking killed and bombed. I wouldn't like seeing it if it was our people. I wouldn't like seeing it if it was anyone else.
That's Corey. That brings me back to the very first point of a year of worthy and unworthy victims. What so many people are saying without saying it like the pro-Israel crowd that really bothers me. And I don't know if they mean it this way, but it's certainly the way it comes out. Which that you are suggesting that a Jewish life is more valuable than a Palestinian life. If that's what you think, just say that. You don't have to beat around the bush about it. That's what you.
Liberty Twitcher said. Meanwhile, soldiers shoot babies in Darfur and warlords cause famine in Sudan. Does anyone care? Well, that's the whole point, right? It's about worthy and unworthy victims. Right now, right now in America, it's being propagated that that Israel is the victim in this. And they were the victim on October 7th, 100%. But the way they're responding is not right. If someone was doing to them what they're doing to...
Even if you want to take the pro-Palestinian side of that, it's like, are Palestinian lives worth any more than these lives in Darfur? No, they're not. That's the whole point. It's like,
and in Africa, these countries, this shit shouldn't be happening. But you know why this shit is happening? Because you want to get more complex into it. Read the book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. All these countries in Africa and all these countries in South America, and that's why we're seeing our immigration issue, is because countries like China, countries like Russia, countries like America, countries like the UK, all of the developed countries are going in there and basically extorting their governments and causing a bunch of corruption to make it to where their governments can't run ineffectively because they've been sold a bill of goods based on some sort of GDP bullshit manufactured thing they were promised, to the point where they would take out these ridiculously large loans, and then their countries would fall apart, opening the doors for corruption while the big countries are coming in and fucking supplementing that corruption and supplementing that chaos and having an active hand in it in some points, so that behind the scenes they could sit there and they could take the minerals, they could take the natural rights, they can do all things like this. This happens all over the fucking place. And again, it's a more complex issue than to just say, oh, the terrorists are bad. And it's just, it's fucked up. It's fucked up what's happening over there. I don't think what Hamas is doing is right. Should Hamas, if I could wave a wand and make Hamas disappear, absolutely I would, just like the Hezbollah, just like a lot of fucking people. But that's not the reality that we're in. And lowering our standards of we're the good guys. Liberty, you believe we're the good guys. Lowering our standards of decency down to the shitty terrorists that you hate doesn't make us better people, is all that I'm basically getting at.
How about a year of realization that the U.S. has no interest in actually controlling Israel's actions, as they've said they want to do for so long? Let's throw a hypothetical out there for just a minute. Let's say Iran
he goes, at some point, men are men and clean that shit up. And you know what? You're probably 100% right. But you know who also agrees with you? The very people that you're demeaning, because they see it in a 180-degree different view.
That brings me to my hypothetical. Let's just say there's a section of Iran that's roughly the size of Gaza that is completely embedded with Jewish people. Same situation, except it's Iran with a Jewish Gaza, and they're doing the same thing. Are we having the same reaction? And let's say these Jewish people are throwing missiles out at Tehran all the time, and Tehran has an iron dome shooting down the missiles, and the Iranians go, look, they're just horrible fucking dirty Jewish terrorists that keep throwing missiles out at us. And then they launch a quote unquote October 7th, and Iran levels this Jewish colony that has no ports, that has no money, that has no actual way of bringing in supplies other than what the Iranians allow them to bring in. What does the conversation look like in that scenario?
Oh, we fucking hate Iran.
Are we condemning the dirty terrorist Jews in this hypothetical Jewish Gaza?
Look at the Muslim Uyghurs. Like, there's sympathy towards the Muslim Uyghurs in China, because there's an apartheid basically there against Muslim people there, but because we hate China more, we're on their side. And it's wild how a country thousands of miles away. I guess this is where I'm at. Like, I'm so tired of America just having their hands in so many things that aren't geopolitically
and the wonderful moral equivalence that we keep finding ourselves in. We love the moral equivalence.
The geopolitical influence that we try to hold over the world. And again, that's even that statement, it gets more complex. It's like, well, we're protecting the US dollar, and the US dollar is what keeps all of our stuff cheap. And to completely step away from that would be disastrous for your ways of life, right? But if Israel wants to do this type of shit, then fine. But let them do it on their own. Don't do it at the cost of you or I.
Not fine, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not fine.
At least makes it a little bit better.
They need to go at
that makes that
Yeah. Is Hamas a bad group? Absolutely. We're in 100% agreement on that. I don't like the tactics being used. That's where I'm at.
There's also the argument that Hamas was created by Israel in the first place, and here we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on who's to
blame. They were because they thought that they would be more manageable than And Hamas is around because the Jews or Israel allowed it to happen.
And it's like
I know that sounded really bad.
That was a bit of a Freudian slip.
I'm part Jewish.
I couldn't tell. But no. The last point I had was like a year of utter collapse in the global PR and public opinion of the Israeli government. And because at the end of the day, this is my issue. That the Israeli government is a government that is no better and no worse than ours here in the United States. It's just another power structure that is repressive in every single way, even to its own people, just like ours is. And there's finally been a global collapse in PR of that, of our government as well, which I'm cool with.
Right, knives in the house.
And particularly of the Israeli government. Like, you don't just get to run around, because we do this too. Like, even as Americans, this isn't even necessarily an Israeli thing. You run around as a global power. I think Israel is the fourth largest military in the world, or at least they were as of a few years ago. That may have changed, but they're in the top 10 for sure. And you run around claiming victim. The United States does that too. We have to do these things. It's the whole Nikki Haley. We have to fight them over there so we don't have to fight them over here, right? And it's
like Lindsey Graham doing it with the B screen showing fucking Helene aftermath, and he's talking about Israel.
Oh my God, that was brutal. That was rough. Lindsey Graham's done a lot of shitty things, but that was a bad one.
I guess ultimately what you're seeing happen over there is you're seeing the people who were, undisputably oppressed becoming oppressors.
Yeah, the oppressors becoming, or the oppressed.
I understand wanting to respond. I get it, but leaders are supposed to have a level hand, because what Netanyahu's doing over there right now. I have a 5-year-old son. We saw the last Middle Eastern war take 20 years. Is he leading us? Because America's right behind, leading us into another bullshit war that's going to have no outcome, and my kid's going to end up having to be drafted if it leads to that point? Like, give me a fucking break.
Yeah. Not to mention the destruction coming forth. At some point, the argument of like, they started it. No, they started it. No, at some point it stops mattering. Like, you think of like the gang wars between like the Bloods.
Yeah, we're past. That's just it. We're past the point of who started it, and that's what I was getting at. Where it's like everyone's acting like all the history of what's happening over there started on October 7th, and it's like, no. You go look up footage, and you see, first off, you see Israelites spitting at Christians who are visitors. If that bothers you at all, that they act like they like the Orthodox and the Orthodox Israelites and stuff like that act like they're better than everyone. They treat everyone like shit over there. Just the Palestinians get the worst go of it. And
not anymore. You're talking historically.
I'm talking about right now.
Oh, okay.
Look up videos.
You sound like a Jew hater, Corey.
I'm not a Jew hater.
I almost choked on that.
You almost choked on ice.
I'm just kidding.
Like, it's just
and
no
no,
side
the
is
other thing,
innocent
like,
in
Corey,
this, I guess is what I'm getting at.
We have been very sympathetic, I think, in the times that we've talked about this situation. I think we've been very sympathetic to the like rational and reasonable fear that Jewish people have, given the historical context of what's happened to their people. Like we're not callous to that. But when it just becomes the oppressed becoming the oppressor, we start to have a problem.
Yeah, it should be called out. Objectively, it should be called out.
Genocide.
Right. Like, do the Israelis have a right to exist? Yes, but the Palestinians do too.
Genocide them before they genocide us is not a fucking answer to this problem.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny, Corey? And you know what's
Liberty
funny?
Twitcher asked, did you guys even watch some of the horrible videos that day? Yeah, we did. That's what led to the conclusion that Hamas is fucking terrible. But have you watched any of the videos of what's happened since then? It doesn't, like, that. The videos from that one day don't justify.
No, Corey, this is the argument we're not going to have. There's no point in having this argument. Because here's the thing. We could probably be sitting on this show 20 years from now and still be talking about the same shit. Why should it be any different? Why should it be any different than it was since 1968 or 1972 or 1948 or 2006 or whatever it was, 2005 when the Israelis actually physically pulled out of Gaza? Like, what's the point? What's the point? Yeah. Maybe shit cools off for a little while. I'd call me a nihilist, but I don't think this is going to be solved.
Yeah,
There's no reason to believe it's going to be solved.
I don't think it should be my tax dollars funding it.
We all die anyway.
I just don't think it should be my tax dollars funding it. That's where I'm at a year from now.
That's fair. That's fair. And
that's my summation
on that.
A year in review. What did I learn in a year from this? We shouldn't be fucking funding it.
Fair enough.
There we go.
I dig it.
I'm glad we talked that out.
I don't know why.
But you got to clean it up. Liberty says, let them figure it out. I don't want my tax dollars funding it.
Yeah, I agree. We got enough shit. Isolationists now, Corey. We're isolationists.
Sure. Call me an isolationist.
It doesn't matter what you. Well, you know what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what you say. You're automatically going to get like put into a box at some corner of something. So it's,
you know what? Let our government be just like how I am with my house, a fucking porcupine. I'm not going to attack you, but if you come in, you're going to get fucking poked. I promise you that.
You pat. Would you have anything on Hurricane Milton?
It's fucked.
I don't even know why I threw that in the banners. But most people that are listening to this in podcast form, I'm assuming the storm is either happening now or already passed. Hope you're safe. And the only thing I have to say about this is as soon as this passes, when it comes to both Milton and Helene, as soon as these storms are cleared and probably not even as cleanup begins, get ready for the climate grifters because they're coming. They are coming because Hurricane Milton is now, I want to say, the third, somewhere between 3 and 5 of the most powerful hurricanes in the existence in this region. Coming right off the heels of Hurricane Helene, it's going to be this whole, you see, it's climate change, and here's why. And then they're not going to be able to prove exactly why because these are weather events.
Well, it's because the oceans are getting warmer.
Coming. Is that what they're going to say?
Well, it's just that's what's happening, right? Aren't the oceans getting warmer?
I guess, but a hurricane could develop and never hit anything. So, like a hurricane didn't hit the coast of Florida.
Though it's clear that happens because they go through the alphabet and go back and forth between male and female names. So after Helene, there was so that Helene is Hijkl. So there was four other.
But it's any storm that develops in the Atlantic Ocean. It could could be a small tropical storm that goes away. So yeah.
So there was 4 other ones other than this one. This one just happened to be a really shitty one.
Atlantic Ocean's a big place. Big area.
Why do they call it the pond? But
anyway, that's all we had. I think that's all we had because the storm.
No, it's going to be fucked. It's going to be fucked, and it goes back to the whole Israel thing, right? Like I was saying earlier, the government did a whole stopgap measure, didn't fund FEMA more money, but sent money to Israel, and now the
Bella, I'm
second
bringing you in. I
hurricane's
gotta
coming
pee.
through.
I'm bringing you in.
Now the second hurricane's coming through, and all of fucking Florida is just covered and riddled with piles of debris from the previous hurricane because they haven't had a chance to clean it up. And now there's going to be 130 mile an hour winds that come through. That's just going to pick all of that up and throw it around like projectiles. Helene basically gave Milton weapons.
They've been doing in each town having they had in this one in Clearwater, they had 300 trucks come through and do 1,300 loads of garbage in one day. They're doing a lot of work down there to try to, like, not have that happen. This is the first time on record that the Atlantic has had 3 hurricanes simultaneously after September.
This is the first time.
History.
So Liberty, you just said then when they couldn't credibly make the case for global warming, it came climate change. So it's kind of like we're not like that's where we kind of take a pause too, right? Where it's like the doom and gloomers, the making it another crisis. It's like, I don't know. Has the global temperature trended in the last 50 years up? Sure, but at the same time, we're still globally cooler now than we were like 1,000 years ago. We've been on a downward trend, and it's funny because like it used to be the impending ice age, now it's climate change. And
did I just hear you say that Helene was the United States and Milton is Israel, and that makes Florida Gaza?
No, that's yes.
Jesus Christ.
I thought because I had my headphones on the entire time.
Because I said, yeah, Helene all Helene did was arm Milton.
To fuck up Florida.
But yeah, no. And that's funny because that's also when it comes to the climate change thing, JD Vance, I think, made a good point in his debate when he's like, if you're really worried about climate change, then what we need to do is make energy here as cheap as possible to bring manufacturing here because America is one of the cleanest countries when it comes to regulations and stuff versus other countries.
Well,
but
it's kind of Econ 101, right? Like, and you could take this back to almost the Stone Age. The more efficient energy gets, the cheaper it gets. The more people get it, the richer people get, the better off people are. Like this isn't that hard. Like we're all for renewable energy, right? If it makes sense. If it makes sense. Right now, it doesn't make fucking sense. Just doesn't make sense yet.
Well, it's NIMBY, right? Like we don't want to see these big oil things here, or these big mines here. So we'll have some kids mine the cobalt or mine the lithium and all that type of shit, like in the mines in Africa and Asia and stuff like that, which goes back and connects to the fact that all these countries where the lithium is, that the mines are corrupt and unstable because it's almost by design where that happens, and then the private companies come in and gather it and bring it back here to sell.
To JD Vance's also another one of his points, and you and I I don't think, well, I'm not going to speak for you, but I don't think you either are a fan of JD Vance, but like a few great points that he made in that debate was like, where's the nuclear? Where's the nuclear? It's the cleanest form of energy we have.
That's how we solve it.
It's the cleanest, most efficient form of energy that we have. Yeah. Thomas Sowell, there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. The trade-off.
Yeah, that's one thing I give Whitmer credit for. She seems
a
pro-nuclear.
possibility. Do you have a small possibility of a nuclear meltdown? Yeah, that theoretically, yes, that could happen.
Do you know they're reopening 3 Mile Island?
No shit. I did not know that. Did I hear something also about I could be talking out of my ass here, so nobody take me seriously when I say this. But I swear to God, I heard it was maybe on Patrick Bet-David's show or some other show like that, like California, because there's so many electric cars, they're not getting enough money from the gas tax.
Nope, you're right.
They're now going to be taxing people for driving electric cars.
Yeah, per mile. There's a pilot program in California right now for that.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus Christ. I hope that's so funny.
Yeah. Liberty Twitcher goes, because of the enormous amount of energy needed for AI. Yeah, did you know that it takes, what was it? A bottle of, like, I think to cool the servers for you to generate an email, it takes like a whole bottle of water. Is like the math for it. Like it takes a whole bottle of water, like of energy, to cool the servers for you to generate one email.
Damn.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's pretty wild, isn't it?
I just learned something new today.
Hey, things learned.
Yeah, that's great. Things learned. I got it. What the hell are we talking about? We were talking about Hurricane Milton. Somehow it got into climate change because that's what the climate grifters want.
I know you get really bent out of shape about the climate change stuff.
I do, dude. I know, but here's the thing. It just makes me. It's not that I don't think climate change should or could be a concern. Like I get that. It's the, as you said, the doom and gloom of it. And like, how bad is it? Because I think I've said this before on the show. I firmly believe that
the climate is changing.
Human beings and that human beings are probably having an effect on that. But there just isn't the right data to suggest that, like, because that's what they always do. They turn into like the Earth is going to end in 10 years, right? So like, I'm all for like trying to find ways to do something about it. But I'm also not going to be like, we should stop having kids. We should stop having kids because that's the
right. Everyone just hold your breath for 30 seconds
yeah,
at the same
you're
time.
never gonna get me to go that far.
So where I'm at with it, I'll even concede and say that like, it makes sense.
Liberty Twitcher makes a great point again here, but that doom and gloom's been around for overpopulation, global cooling, etc. So yeah, in the 1970s there was supposed to be an ice age.
Yeah.
Like that is actually a point that I've tried to make and have not been able to articulate. Like there's always the next thing, right? It's on climate change and global warming.
But I think that's like a human society as a whole, like on the macro levels, like this main character.
It's like a weird
syndrome.
religious thing.
It's a main character syndrome. It's a main character syndrome. We think that we have that much influence on all the shit that happens. No, but overall, when it comes to climate change, like I'm willing to concede that we probably are having a drastic effect on it, for the idea that it took billions and billions of years for all of like the fossil fuels to be brought down and into the earth, and then the earth's equilibrium of its pressures and atmospheres and all that stuff like changed over time as that stuff was put there, and then we're turning around and just like at an exponential rate releasing it all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the solutions.
Oh, the solutions are even worse.
That's like what I don't like.
That's where
like, especially since like what frustrates me is like, and it goes back to what we were talking about with worthy and unworthy victims. It goes to worthy and unworthy solutions. Immediately, there's this big push for windmills and solar panels and stuff, but nuclear energy is being ignored. There's a lot of this cutting edge technology that's coming out that like it looks like it might be like commercially viable, to where it's like a profitable thing where a private company can do it. But they basically like say it's a smokestack and it releases carbon emission. They have like a glass vacuum you can put on there that you run electricity through, that has a wire through it that captures that carbon and turns it basically into carbon fiber. There's Honda is coming out with a hydrogen powered car. There's all of these different things that are coming out. Like we could, like you could capture energy from currents in the ocean. There's hydroelectric dams that you can get stuff from. There's all these different things that are already there. Stuff just to make that happen, because you're putting the cart in front of the horse when you're trying to do that transition. There are alternatives to cleaner energy. But if you like your phone, if you like the idea that it's something as simple as DoorDash can be delivered to your house, if you like those cheap products, you need oil, because oil makes plastics. Oil makes a lot of compounds. It makes, like it's used in a lot more shit than you think.
Yeah, but if you go look up petroleum-based products,
yeah,
It's, I mean, my computer screen right now. I mean, almost every plastic.
Food grade lubricants.
Half my computer
like
screen.
creams that you put on your face, oils, like there's petroleum-based products and fucking everything. Those should be as cheap as possible.
So you and I are on this. I
But
think you
like,
and I have always been on this.
oh, that nuclear fusion. Like we might see that in our lifetime, and if that's the case, then the whole fucking energy problem is gonna be turned on its head because there's just gonna be 50 suns you can turn on and off all over the world, and then energy is just gonna be abundant. Like that's the type of shit that I'm looking to. But I don't think we need to put stupid band-aids of like solar panels in fucking like
Connecticut.
Connecticut that only that only sees sun maybe 30% out of the year, or windmills in an area that has an average wind speed of 5 miles an hour,
or windmills in the ocean that are killing whales, and that's actually happening.
Right.
Yeah. It's I'm with
Bro,
you.
I don't
Like,
think we need to, like, just because it's not happening here, relying on a bunch of kids using plastic fucking forks and
it's like so if you think about like rivers or oceans even that were once polluted and honestly still are, let's not like act like that problem has gone away. But it's like, okay, you recognize what the problem is, you fix the problem, and you clean up the mess that you left behind. Like, there's no reason that
when it comes to Israel.
Just dump oil on him. just skid of oil on.
Don't say that, because his next comment's going to be throw a match after.
You know what I mean, right? Like you can. We've made those mistakes, and we've actually done a pretty it's amazing what human beings can do. And we've actually done a pretty goddamn good job of fixing those problems, getting them cleaned up. And, you know, I don't see a reason why quote unquote climate change can't be something similar to that. Because we all want clean drinking water, right? We don't want our fucking rivers flooded with pollution. We've done a decent job of cleaning those things up. There's no reason why climate change can't be the same. I'm more worried about like weird things. Like, what are these microplastics in my body doing to me? I'm more worried about shit like that. And I don't even know if they're that big of a problem. There actually isn't a lot of data on it. Like maybe we can live the rest of our lives with these microplastics in our nutsacks. Who knows? But I'm more concerned about shit like that.
I spilled my seed and made a son before I knew about the microplastics, because that would have just been a whole nother fucking anxiety trip.
I have no clue what my sperm count is. I have no idea. I don't have any kids yet, and
I went from thinking I was shooting blanks to thinking that I need to come on the other side of the room. So that's where I'm at.
The other side, like if she smells,
like I have to like don't look.
Don't look, don't breathe too heavy.
Just in the closet, you just hear.
She's like, I smell fish.
No,
get out!
No!
What else do we have, Corey? Well, I guess I could just leave with this, and then if you want to do headlines, we can. I'm pretty sure 60 Minutes killed Kamala Harris's campaign. Pretty sure that happened.
Dude, so I haven't watched very many 60 Minutes interviews, and that was so highly edited. It was insane.
That's more or less what they do.
Right. But like, to me, just the editing was just bad. It was just noticeable.
Was it?
To me,
I didn't watch the whole thing. We can play a little bit of it, though.
What your critics and the columnists say.
Okay.
They say that the reason so many voters don't know you is that you have changed your position on so many things. You were against fracking, now you're for it. You supported looser immigration policies, now you're tightening them up. You were for Medicare for all, now you're not. So many that people
is he talking to Kamala Harris or JD Vance?
Know what you believe, or
because it could be either or.
Stand for, and I know you've heard that.
In the last 4 years, I've been Vice President of the United States.
Have
I
you
have been
now?
traveling our country, and I've been listening to folks and seeking what is possible in terms of common ground. I believe in building consensus. We are diverse people.
See what I mean? You saw that
Geographically,
edit, right?
regional, where we are in our backgrounds, and what the American people
Like, what
do
was the
want is that
filibuster
we
between
have
where she
leaders who
ended
can
and the
build
camera changed and she
consensus,
said, we are diverse
where
people?
we can figure out compromise and
That's a fair
understand it's not
question.
a bad thing, as long as you don't compromise your values, to find common sense solutions. And that has been my approach.
She literally said nothing. She didn't say
Yeah.
a goddamn thing. And that is her whole thing. Like, she does this, like, as you said, Corey, she does this like this filibustering thing.
Yeah.
But she's really fucking bad
Dude,
at
I
it.
have one that was
Like, she's-
perfect. They asked her about Israel, and she said, we're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear on where we stand for the need for this war to end. I had to
Is that an
rewind
exact
it. Yeah, I
quote?
had to rewind it like 3 times just to hear the words and type them out. But yeah, we're not going to stop pursuing.
I've been covering the border for years. And so I know this is not a problem that started with your administration.
Correct.
But there was an historic flood of undocumented immigrants coming across the border the first 3 years of your administration. As a matter of fact, arrivals quadrupled from the last year of President Trump. Was it a mistake to loosen the immigration policies as much as you did?
It's a long-standing problem. And solutions are at hand. And from day one, literally, we have been offering solutions.
What I was
Have
asking
you
was,
now?
was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem. Okay.
But the numbers did quadruple.
And the
under
numbers
your
today,
watch.
because of what we have done, we have cut the flow of illegal immigration by half.
But should you
We
have
have
done
cut
that?
the
Should you
flow
have
of
done that?
fentanyl by half, but we need Congress to be able to act to actually fix the problem.
Like, I mean, she's not wrong about that last part. Like, that's probably the closest thing.
But she
to,
could
like,
have
a
said
leg-
just that.
Yeah, like that was probably the closest thing to like something of substance that she said in quite some time. I want to find the one about. Did you see the one about where she said Iran is our number one fucking adversary?
Yeah, I heard
Like,
it.
are like what are you talking about? First of all, I don't know who our number one adversary is other than ourselves. But if you're going to say any foreign country, would you probably? I think you'd probably say China. I think that's probably the right answer. It's a stupid question, and it's probably going to invoke a stupid answer.
But the whole time she was
But yeah, I don't know.
flip-flopping.
I don't want to play any more of this shit.
I
don't want to play any more of this.
She went to the pivot that like when it comes to the economy, that like citing unemployment numbers and other macroeconomic measures, when it's such a disconnect because everyone is going to the store and everything is more expensive, right? Again, rich people need to pay their fair share. But then she cited, I'm a capitalist.
Yeah,
what
dude,
do I
it
have?
wasn't good.
Oh, touting that the Cheneys are on their side. I just don't understand.
I do, dude. They're in their own little vacuum. They're in their own little bubble where it's
They're
like
just in an
all of these
anti-Trump
people are with
vacuum.
us.
Like never mind that the Dick Cheney was one of the worst fucking VPs. You know, from Guantanamo Bay to the economic crash.
Strategically, no, like from a political strategy, he was fantastic. From an actual like human perspective, he's one of the biggest pieces of shit that has ever held that office. But yeah,
she's
like saying that the Cheneys are on your side.
Asking about Ukraine joining NATO, she just responds, those are all issues that we will deal with if and when it arrives at that point.
Well, that's not what the American people want. if
Putin
they're
would
going
be
to fucking
sitting in
vote for
Kyiv
you.
right now. If Trump was the
That's
president.
what she said, right? Okay.
And then one other thing I thought was interesting. And so like I watched this interview, I watched the View interview, and not only when they were talking to him, they were like playing B-roll of different footage from their campaigns and their rallies and stuff. And we're hearing a lot of shit about there being pro-fracking. They own guns. They're wearing American pins. They're talking about sealing the border. They're on the stage chanting USA, USA, and God bless America. Did the right win?
That's an interesting question. I don't think so, but yeah.
Like did the right do what we saw?
No,
did the right
because
do
you know
what we
what?
saw? What the the longshoremen do in their strike? They went so extreme with this 77% price increase on their wages and stuff like that, and then the employers just met them in the middle at 62%, and now we're seeing the Democrats meet the most extreme, or meet the Republicans and their spectrum of from moderate to most extreme in the middle.
I would say did quote unquote the right win. I would say yes and no. I would say yes in the fact that like neoconservatism just continues to win in politics, but that's not anything new. Democrats are fucking conservatives. Like, don't make any mistake about this. Democrats, when it comes to foreign policy, I'm talking about establishment Democrats, when it comes to foreign policy, are neoconservatives. They always have been. This isn't a new thing. Bill Clinton was a neoconservative. Barack Obama was a neoconservative.
So that's interesting, right? Like,
And
so
then-
when it comes to the term neoconservative, I can't think of a good example of neoconservatism. I can think of good examples of neoliberalism, but I can't.
Neoconservatism is all of the overseas American hegemony. That's all neoconservatism. We have to.
That's fair.
You know, it's the
neoconservatives that were like
it's
the geopolitics, and then the neolibs
we have to
subsidizing big corporations.
Fight them over here bullshit. It's all nonsense. It's why we've always said, like, Republicans and Democrats, left, right, doesn't matter. There's no such thing anymore. It's two wings of the same bird. It's all establishment bullshit. It's all
I get people
bullshit.
pushing back at me, and they're like, "Yeah, but the Republicans are so bad," and it's just like, well, ultimately the way I look
in what
at it,
context?
right?
No,
I
that's what
ultimately-
you ask him. You ask,
right,
most
and
of
that's
the
just
time.
it. And it's like, no, I agree with you. I agree with you on all of this. The only thing I disagree with you is that the Democrats are better. And then you cite your stuff,
Yeah.
and then they just give you more shit about the Republicans, and it's like we're sitting here just giving all the negatives of both sides.
You know why, Corey?
And then,
You know why, Corey? It's because you are a Republican. They're talking to you as if you're arguing for the other side, and you're not doing that. I have these arguments all the time, and it frustrates the shit out of me. Where somebody will say, "Well, Democrats," and I'll do exactly what you do. Well, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, but Republicans do this or Democrats do that, and they argue with you like you're a member of the other side because they've already positioned you as a member of the other side, even though you're not. You're not a member of the other side. It's just like it's like, and that's what makes those arguments so frustrating for people like you and me, because all we're trying to do is point out that, like, you realize these two fucking groups of people, these two groups of establishment assholes.
and I think it's important to distinguish that we're
on the
talking
same
like,
team. And who are they against? They're against you. They're against you every
Yeah.
single time.
And I think it's also important to distinguish, I guess, like federal Democrats and federal Republicans from state Republicans and state Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, you can have some good people involved. I mean, even in the House, I mean, there's two great guys in the House that I love a lot, and it's funny because they're both Republicans, so I guess that makes me a Republican. Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. I mean, they're the only adults in the room in Congress. I mean, for the most part. Bernie Sanders, I guess, sometimes has his moments if you want to pick a guy on the left, but even he'll just cuck to the establishment whenever it's
I would even
convenient for
say
him.
AOC sometimes.
every once in a while she gets it right.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
Or even
Dude,
even members of the squad get it right sometimes.
Dude, we've talked about MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, on occasion getting it right. But it's like they're so embedded in their extremism that the parts of them that are good, they never come to fruition when it actually matters. Like when Marjorie Taylor Greene is arguing about free speech, I'm 100% on her side every single time. I'm always on her side.
But it's always like,
but then
her
she wants to
speech.
go and defend Trump. Right. Exactly. It's always about her speech. But if she wanted to shut up somebody like AOC, she would take that opportunity the first chance she gets. When it's AOC arguing for let's just say arguing for abortion or arguing for women in general, I'm on her side too. And it's just like and that's the issue that I have with these arguments with the people that you and I are talking about, is like getting people to understand that it's all politically, it's all by design. And I know like there are people like, oh, you sound like a conspiracy theorist. Like, it's not a conspiracy. It's just reality.
Right. It's just like the perfect example, and it's your boy Thomas Massey that brought this up. The stopgap measure that was put in place that conveniently left out funding for FEMA ends on December 20th. That means they have to come back on December 20th to make a vote to keep the government open again. And it'll probably only be another 6 month vote or like measure to keep it open for that long. And it's going to be this bill that's going to have a shit ton of stuff in it that no one's going to have time to read because they all got to rush back home to be home for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Every year.
And it's all by design. It's all by design.
Thomas Massey's a smart man. What is it about Kentucky?
I don't know. They make good chicken.
Because Rand Paul is a senator from Kentucky. Thomas Massey is a representative from Kentucky. And then you have fucking Mitch McConnell on the complete opposite side of the spectrum.
One of the highest illiteracy rates in poorest states.
Poorest states. Yeah, it's just they got a couple of great reps out there. I'll tell you that.
And good chicken.
Good chicken. You need to get to that chicken, Corey. We can end the show. What else? Do we have anything else? Did you want to roll through headlines?
Nah, I'll just have some better ones next week.
Man, you were struggling this week. We are going to be. By the way, we should let our people know about the schedule change for our live shows. It's going to be this week. It's going to be actually, I think, the next 4 weeks. We're going to have to do the next 4 weeks on Tuesdays.
4?
Yeah, because you got the next 2 that you got to do, and then the week after that, I think I got to do a Tuesday. So
all right,
we're going to be on Tuesdays for a little while. If you want to check out the live show on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, around 8 o'clock is when we roll in here. So we should probably get that really nailed down to what time we start, but it's okay. We're amateurs. We're figuring this out as we go.
We're doing our best. Libservative Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. Our TikTok videos can be found in Libservative Podcast. And you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know?
Amen.
Don't you know? Don't you know?
We're all behind our baseball team. Go get 'em, Tiger.
World Series bound and picking up steam.
Go get 'em, Tiger.
That's right. Look for me in section 217.
I always feel obliged to rar in that space right there.
Look for me on TV. Me in section 217 for game 4. What's hopefully going to be a series clinching game. It's funny. People are going to be listening to this and be like, the Tigers lost game 3. I hope I'm wrong about that. I just jinxed them, didn't I?
No, you're wearing,
Totally
wearing your good luck jersey or sweater.
I love it. For Bill the Body Snatcher, he as always has been Corey Walsh.
And he's Dan Griffin.
It's been Libservative. And until next time, we are out of here.
Peace.